We're live! Here we are. And people are already jumping on. Hello, hello, everybody. Today we have some really awesome stuff that we're going to teach you. We've got a lovely guest speaker who you're going to want to listen to. She's a star. She's one of our stars. She's a light. So I'll give people a little bit of time to jump on. How you doing, Tamara?
Oh, I'm doing good, Veronica. Doing good.
Yeah?
It's so warm and sunny here today. And yeah, I'm feeling well. I'm going to go visit my parents this weekend.
Oh, that'll be fun. Boundaries.
Oh,
Good job we did boundaries yesterday.
I sent my mother a little text and let her know specifically when we were arriving, what was on the agenda, when we're leaving. So it's very clear. And she was like, "Sounds good, sweetheart. Look forward to seeing you." So she's definitely caught on to the whole boundary thing.
So if you joined us yesterday, we were talking about why boundaries will change your life. If you didn't catch that, make sure that you watch the recording, that it's pinned to the Facebook group. And if you're on this call, you're on the email list. So you will also get the email coming out with the recording. Make sure that you listen to the boundary one. Yes, please keep saying hello. Let us know where you're from. Today, we're going to be talking about shame and guilt, which is, I haven't met anyone who is female or a mother who hasn't carried a lot of that around. And it's a big part of our drinking. So when you come to these live trainings and you answer the homework, we give away prizes because we just like to give away prizes. We want to encourage you to get everything out of this. Like I said on the first call, which was about emotional sobriety, we don't do fluff. This is not a tips and tricks to stay away from a drink. This is life changing, and I do not use that word casually, personal development work, which is the root of not just your drinking, but any kind of dysfunctional behavior. And yesterday and day one, where we did emotional sobriety, I began to make those links about when you feel like this, that leads to us feeling uncomfortable in our own skin. And that's when our brains look around for an anesthetic. Where's the anesthetic? Where's the anesthetic? So that's why this work it's non-negotiable. It's not, if you want to live a life that is expansive and full of possibilities, not perfect, but expansive and full of possibilities, then we have to do this deeper personal development work. Everyone on the planet has to do this. It's just we get this urgent call to action to do this work. So stay till the end to get the homework question, because today, I'll announce yesterday's winner in a second. Today, you can win 3 months membership to Soberful Life, which is our subscription group community, where we have a community of people living alcohol-free, tons of support groups, workshops, fabulous things going on, something going on every day. Lots of people have benefited from that, and you can win 3 months membership to that. So let me, with no further ado, let you know who won the self-help books that we were giving away yesterday. There was a whole bunch of books that all of the Soberful Life female coaches chose, and those are going to go to Cheryl Bomar. I think that's correct, Cheryl Bomar. I'm not sure if you're on the call, Cheryl, but you are the winner. So
That's awesome.
congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a bunch of books that will come to you probably via Amazon at some point. So congratulations, Cheryl, yay. So just to remind you that you can win, all you have to do is wait till the end, get the homework question, put that in the Facebook group in the post that will come up, and you can win 3 months membership to Soberful Life. Now, let me see what other housekeeping I have. So today we're going to be talking about shame and guilt. Tamara is going to talk to you about that. As we were talking about before, she has a lot of experience in that area, as we all. everything you'll see over the next few days, everything ties in together. It all, everything links together, and that will kind of become clearer as we go over the next few days training. And then we're going to listen to Marianne, who's going to tell a little bit of her story. She's really, really incredible, and you're going to want to hear her message. So, Tamara, guilt and shame, where do we even start?
Oh my gosh, Veronica, right? Where do we start? I think it's important to kind of talk about how it might show up. Um, I think a lot of people know when they feel guilty or shameful, but there are some pretty obvious signs: depression, anxiety, being tired all of the time, maybe not being able to be present with other people because you're stuck in your head thinking about the past and the events that have occurred, or worrying about the future, or who you might run into. And then some really specific behaviors might be avoiding people, right? Isolating at home, not answering the phone when it rings, not reading your mail. Maybe you're not reaching out to your friends and you haven't spoken to them for a while. And you might even find yourself in the morning after a night of drinking, um, looking at your phone and seeing what messages were sent the night before that you don't remember. And you might even notice that you delete everything, hoping that it'll go away and no one else have seen the messages that you sent. Um, you might also notice that you are unable to, your stomach feels really tight and that you're unable to look at yourself in the mirror. I know for me, those were some really common feelings that and symptoms that went along with the shame and guilt. Um, and it was like I didn't even realize it until I started unpacking it and getting help to unpack even the difference between shame and guilt, as well as just having a professional help me unpack and make sense of that. I found out that I was taking ownership of things that weren't mine to take ownership of, which added to it. And it was just this weight that was sitting on me all the time. The chest being high, the chest being tight, the stomach being tight, the just kind of really moving away from general society and isolating at home. And really, those are some of the common behaviors. They can show up in a variety of different ways, and not being able to look at myself in the mirror. That was a big one, huge one for me. I was just could not stand to look at myself in the mirror at the end. And, it was because of guilt and shame. And I want to define guilt and shame, because sometimes people think that they're the same thing, but they're not. Um, Guilt is I have done something outside my value system. Therefore, I feel guilty about it. And then shame is I think I'm bad. I'm worthless. My whole being is just not of value. So there's a little bit of different. One is pretty much tied to my actions, right? Guilt is tied to my actions, and shame is tied to like my whole being. And I just want to give you, to me now, it's a really funny story, but it wasn't. So at the end of my drinking, um, I had resigned from my job, basically because they were going to fire me. But I resigned from my job, and I had slunk out of, and I was a middle school teacher, and I didn't want anybody to know that I was not coming back, and so I tried to pack some things that I could get like in my bags without people really noticing, and I sneaked out the back door of that school, and I had my head down, and I felt really ashamed. Not that I felt the guilt, and I didn't understand the two of them, but the feeling of just being worthless was overwhelming. And I thought, because I couldn't stop drinking and I couldn't and the drinking caused me to do behaviors that were outside of my value system. And I just felt like I was absolutely worthless, absolutely worthless. And that was a shame story for me, because I just couldn't let anybody see me slinking out of that middle school, trying to put stuff in my car and drive away, crying, knowing um, that that I was a piece of crap. I mean, and that's really how I felt. Um, and then guilt. So down the road a little bit, I was, this is like a couple of months after I had left that job. I was at the mall with my daughter, and uh, I want my right, the principal of the school. And you know what I did? I ducked. I ducked behind a clothing rack. And that moment when you like do something like that, but you lock eyes with the other
Oh.
person
And
as
they know, and you know, and everyone,
yes,
there's a knowing,
there's
but
a
you still
knowing.
duck.
Yes, but you still dug. And that was because of the guilt I had felt about my behaviors and my inability to show up for work. I mean, the truth was is that my drinking interfered with my ability to show up at work, and I wasn't there hardly at all. Um, and so those are just kind of a couple of examples from my own experience. And when you have these unresolved feelings, it drains us of our energy. It, I mean, we don't have any confidence, completely erodes confidence. It robs us of our peace. And those things uses the bandwidth, right? That's the thing. Like when you're stuck in guilt and shame, you can't really get anything else done. Not only just doing things, but you also can't really be present for the people around you because you just can't get out of that. And the needed energy and thinking that we need to meet life's daily tasks is just not there when the bandwidth is gone due to the guilt and shame. And what I didn't know was that I never signed up to drink the way that I drank. Like,
Mm.
I never signed up for that. I would, I just, everybody drank, right? Everybody drank and people were drinking. And it wasn't like, I know, right, Kathy? Caroline, it's hard to imagine me like that, but it's true. That's how I was at the end. And no one imagines that this is going to be what happens to us. So when you get into that spiral of the shame and guilt, especially if you've tried to stop drinking and been unsuccessful at it, right? There's the other thing, the trying to stop and not being successful, and the shame and around that, and the shame spiral that leads us where? Right back into the drinking to soothe our feelings that we can't deal with and we don't know how to deal with. Who who has felt this way? Who relates to these experiences? Who cannot look at themselves in the mirror? Who feels like they are unsuccessful at life? Because, and you can just post it in the comment section. You can say, I do, or, you know,
Mm,
um,
mm, mm.
yeah, if this is something that you relate to. Um, and I just disliked myself so much that I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. So, Amanda, yes. Laura, I can relate. Alice, I sure used to. Lack of energy was such a downer.
Mm, mm.
Susan, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Once I crossed it so hard, that line. Absolutely. Absolutely. And maybe even having quite a few days put together and then returning to the drink and just thinking, what is wrong with me? I'm just terrible person. And for me, I was also a single parent during this time. And I love my daughter more than anything. And Veronica can attest, right? There isn't anything that I wouldn't do for her. And I believe in being a very present, attentive, loving, emotionally, financially, spiritually, mentally supportive parent. That is, and also allowing my child to have the dignity to be who she is and celebrating that with her. And I wasn't able to do that when I was drinking. And I don't know if anyone else has experienced this or not, but there's kind of this feeling in our culture that it's okay if you drink if you're a woman and a mom, but you can't be a drunk, right? You can't be a drunk. There's this kind of scarlet letter that goes on us, and I don't know about the rest of you, but there's been some things that I have done in my drinking around my daughter that I, wish I hadn't done. And that includes driving with her in the car, and we are very lucky that nothing happened to us. Um, but if you look around in society, you'll see these mommy and baby and wine groups. I see groups of parents get together and drink at events with the kids all running around, and like, who's watching them? Like, who's available for that? And so with women, though, there's like this kind of understanding that we should be able to handle it and it shouldn't get out of hand for us because we're parents. So think about this. How many messages have you gotten, right, that has encouraged you as a parent, as a mother, to drink?
Or
Could be
just as a woman, even
just
just
as a
as a
woman.
woman,
Mhm.
right? I'm thinking of like Sex in the City was all
Yeah,
about that, right?
yeah, absolutely.
I thought if I drank cocktails, I'd be like Carrie Bradshaw.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you can even see the T-shirts and the towels in the kitchen that refer to drinking, and so many marketing to women. And I got to tell you, the alcohol industry, the beverage industry, spent and really worked hard at marketing to women, and that's where you see the frou frou vodkas and the little 4-pack coolers and all this stuff that was like specifically marketed to women.
Hmm.
And none of us think we're going to end up with a drink problem, right? None of us think that. That's like not on the agenda at all. But when you end up with one and you're a parent and you realize that it's out of hand, I mean, I know for me, it was devastating. It was I would I would cry and beg to like be able to stop because I just didn't know how to stop. And I knew it was causing a problem. And I knew it was making my daughter really sad. Um, and she suffered from my active drinking from the ages of 8 to 11. That's how old she was when I was actively drinking, and it had gotten ugly quick. Um, and so this is, you know, I never meant for that to happen, right? I never meant for that to happen, and I had to hide it. I had to hide the alcohol, the bottles, how much I was drinking. I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but like hiding how much you're consuming and like only putting certain amount of bottles out into the trash at a time. Oh my gosh, crazy! And then going to different liquor stores so that people don't know how much you're consuming.
I just want to say, Tamra was drinking out of control until you got pregnant. And then you were dry for those 8 years, right? Not a drop touched your lips, but you didn't do any work, right?
That's correct. That
And
is
you were
correct.
very crispy.
Oh my gosh. I mean, here's the thing. I remember during that time thinking, well, once I get this degree, once I get this car, once I get this house, once my kid gets into the school, then I'll be fine. I mean, literally thinking that. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing any of the work. I just kept thinking that outside stuff was going to make me feel okay in the inside. And yeah, my daughter actually calls me edgy. She calls
Edgy.
me edgy. You're a little edgy, mom. That's what, and she's probably got a pretty accurate picture of who I am. So she spent her life with me. So yeah, and
And then you drank for 3 years, and that was really bad, really fast, right?
it was really bad, really fast. In fact, the first 6 months, it was fairly controlled, like once or twice a month. And then somewhere in there, I started drinking every weekend. And then it was like Thursday through Sunday and then Wednesday through, I mean, it just picked up and then it was every day and I couldn't stop. I mean, and the last year was just horrendous.
So that this is something that's really important to understand is, and this all goes back to emotional sobriety that we talked about on day one. So Tamara didn't drink for 8 years, and then her drinking was much worse very quickly. The reason for that is in that 8 years, she didn't do any emotional sobriety work. So it's almost when people stop drinking for a period of time, and I've seen this happen on many occasions, 6 months, 6 years, 16 years, they don't pick up where they left off. They pick up as if they'd kept going. And that's a big difference. And that's because there was a vacuum of any emotional growth. That's why. Sorry. I just thought
No,
that was important
it
because
is.
it went really bad really quickly. And that's the reason why.
And I've seen that with clients too. Like I've seen that with clients too. They just quit. Maybe they come into treatment and they quit and then something happens and they return to it and they come back and they're just as worse off. I mean, just worse off because it got so much worse in such a short amount of time. And I remember my daughter saying to me when she described her experience with it, she said, I remember that you used to be there and then all of a sudden you weren't.
Mm.
And I didn't know what happened. Because I mean, we'd go to the apple orchard, we'd read books out on the lawn together. I mean, I was there for her, and then once I started drinking, I wasn't. And it was a combination of things. I saw someone ask what triggered me back to drinking. It was a combination of things. I was finishing up some college, the end of my college career. I didn't do any of the work, which is an accumulation. I had a lot of uncomfortable feelings inside of me that I didn't know how to deal with, didn't know how to deal with the stress of my life at that time. And I, the drink was it was very minor. It was, a graduation party for me for college, and I had a glass of champagne, and
Mm.
didn't think anything of it. And here's the thing: is like when you quit drinking for that long, you forget that drinking might be a problem for you. Like if you don't do any other work too, right? You just
Mm.
don't remember.
Do you
So,
feel it was worse for you getting sober as a drunk mom? Like the guilt and shame
oh my gosh,
was.
yes. Yes. So I'll tell you a quick story. So I get sober, and my daughter. So one of the things about my story is I ended up in some legal problems, and I ended up on the front page of the newspaper, like local teacher, dot, 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 dot. I mean, it was well known in the community. And my daughter is going into middle school. She's going into sixth grade, probably the most difficult, challenging time of her life. And I remember going to the school to register her, and I just had my head down like this. Now, it was about a month or two sober, but I was so ashamed at myself and what had transpired that I thought everybody knew, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I mean, but it was really hard for me to walk that into that school and register her for her classes, knowing that my stuff had been on the front page of the newspaper, and just feeling like. And I lived in a really big drinking community. I just want to tell you, my brother thought I would never be able to get sober in that community because of how many people drank, how many bars were there. He thought there's no way, and I did. I'm just going to tell you, I got sober, and you can too. You can too, because it doesn't have to get that bad for you. So anyway, I just want to say anybody can end up with a drink problem. Anybody. And the way to change that is to start to be able to forgive yourself and to start being able to untie some of the knots that gets all jumbled into. And but you need help with that. That's not, because the belief system that we have about ourselves as women and as mothers, if you are, or just as women, is just that this isn't supposed to happen this way, and there's something I did to cause it.
Yeah. And this is the reason that we're doing this today is it's one of the key things that we have to work on in order to be sober. So Tamara's such a great example of that. 8 years not drinking, but not doing the work that we're talking about. I mean, some people can stay sober a long time, but they are very crispy,
Yes.
edgy.
Edge.
They're prickly. They're not, and because we have this call to emotionally grow,
Yeah.
and we have to, and part of it is to deal with, part of the work is we have to deal with a lot of the guilt and shame from our past. Can I ask, Tamara, how do you feel now about yourself and all of that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, what I think is I kind of look at that woman as being a very different person than who I am now. And
Mm,
part of me wants to just wrap my arms around her and tell her
mm,
that all the ways that she felt about herself was not true, that if she wasn't a bad person or a bad mother or a bad woman, she was unwell.
mm.
She was unwell.
That is compassion for self,
Mhm.
is the cure for this guilt and shame that we carry. That's just a perfect, that's how I feel. Like I feel like that towards her. I just wanna, that she wasn't a bad person. She was a really unwell person.
Yeah.
um and I'm just so glad you've got to that place where you're not carrying that anymore. And I know you've made amends to your daughter and the community, and that's a big part of, like, because we do some stuff that we're like, it's not great stuff, and that making amends and just keeping our side of the street clean helps enormously in letting that go.
It really does. And and when you do that, you start to have this shift about the way that you view yourself and look at yourself. And sometimes, the shame part for me didn't just develop right as my drinking. My shame came from my childhood.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
And I
we
think you
we
have some things to say about that too, right?
yeah, we pick up a lot of this messaging in childhood. And it's when we're kids, we're taking in data, we're trying to process the world, and we're trying to create meaning. And often we grow up in environments where we conclude that there's something wrong with us. We do something naughty or bad as a kid, and we think we are bad. I want to tell you a story about what happened to my son today. I think I told you yesterday about the library book that had gone missing, and my boundary was I wasn't going to just fix it by paying for it. I wanted him to have the process. So last night, I could see he was really upset, and I said, "This is what we're going to do. You're going to go to the librarian, and you're going to say, 'I'm sorry, I've lost the book. How can I make this right?' And she will give you a solution, and you will be able to do the solution, and you'll feel much better." But he really cried. He was really upset, and I'm so grateful I have this relationship with my children. And I asked him how he's feeling. He said, "I feel like I'm a bad person, mummy."
Mm,
Right there, he lost the library book. The librarian's going to be upset. So his little brain is taking in that means he's a bad person. Not on my watch.
yes.
So we talked about it, and I also do EFT with my kids, and it really helps release these feelings. And they ask for it now. And I kept coaching him, and I told him, I said, "Do you think you're the first kid who's mislaid a library book?" He's like, "No." And I said, "Do you think lots of other kids did you do it deliberately?" "No, no, it was an accident." "Of course." "So that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you messed up. It's okay. I mess up all the time." So today he's got to see the librarian. So I'll let you know tomorrow or the next day what happens with that. But this was a teachable moment, that he just made a mistake. Lots of people do it. There's a process to make it right. He actually went and chose one of his books and said, "Mommy, I'm going to take this book and see if the librarian will take one of my books instead." And I said, "That sounds like a good solution." I let him do that. So I want to let him have that process so he can free himself of the feelings by doing something right, and he's not absorbing that information that he's a bad person for losing the library book. But that's what a lot of us have done as kids. We have absorbed that, because I didn't have anyone. I brought back a memory of when I played the violin and I lost the music, and I was terrified of my music teacher. I felt so ashamed and guilty that I'd done that. I didn't have anyone to help me with that. So we're absorbing all this information. And then as we get older and we drink and we do stupid stuff, all it does is it piles it on. it piles it on to what was already there. It just it we are all we're doing is looking for more and more and more and more evidence that there's something wrong with us, that we're bad, and that feeling of guilt and shame builds. However, that's the work of sobriety. We can get free of all of that. It's a process. Now, I want to introduce you to Marianne, and I'm gonna see if we can unmute her and start the video. Marianne was in one of our Soberful women programs, and I'm going to be telling you about this program after she finishes speaking. A lot of people have already reached out and asked me about this. So I'm going to give you all the information, but I wanted you to hear it straight from somebody who'd done the program. So welcome, Marianne. Do you want to unmute yourself? There you go.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. I'm grateful to be able to share with you. Thank you.
So, Marianne, when we met back in January, what were things like and why did you join the program?
Um, I guess, to be honest, I was in myself. I had experience, just as you guys have talked about, the ups and downs of quitting and then falling back in and trying to do it by myself. And I had some good fits of sobriety under my belt, but never really did any work to make a difference in my life. And I was managing things okay. I had made a good life for myself, but felt hollow inside.
So it's on the, and I say this to a lot of my clients, all my clients look like you. On the outside, things look good, right?
Yeah,
But on the inside, it wasn't.
exactly. And I didn't know how bad it was on the inside until I had a huge trigger. And the trigger was things were going along fine. And we decided to purchase a new home and move. And we moved to a beautiful area that I thought would be my safe haven. And that's what I called it, my safe haven. And once we had signed all the paperwork and moved, I found out that a person who had assaulted me years ago lived 12 minutes from my new home. And it sent me into a downward spiral, totally out of control. My drinking, which I thought I had under control, I had stopped drinking for quite some time, it was off the table. And I got to a place where I felt inside that I'm either going to slowly kill myself with alcohol or I have to do something to get control because I am not in control. I've been in therapy. I know about cognitive behavioral therapy. It's kept me well for most of my adult years. I tried AA, heard some shaming and guilt in there that I just couldn't bear to hear anymore because I was full of it. And came upon this program and said, I have never heard of this approach before, where there's no shaming and there's no guilt, and they don't constantly talk about all of their drunks. It's about what your potential is and what can potentially happen for you. And I went from being I remember saying in one of the meetings, I'm not a shallow person, but I live a shallow life. Because I was so fearful to leave my house, to run into this person, that my life became very small, even in 5 acres of beautiful natural land. I couldn't drive to a certain place. I couldn't go to a certain store. I was re-victimizing myself all over again. And I think even only 2 months into this program, and at first I was going to resolve the whole thing. And this shows me how sick I still was because I hadn't done the work. It was, I know what kind of car he drives. I'm going to look at every license plate that goes by and I'll know I'm safe as long as I don't see his license plate. And I'm like, what kind of living hell am I putting myself through by continuing to victimize myself like this? And I demanded more of myself. And through this program and doing everything that I was learning, I began to understand that I could take my power back, that I was worthy, that only I could give myself that worthiness and that self-esteem and say, I am not going to be a victim anymore. I refuse to label myself this way. I want my freedom back, and I am letting it go. I am letting him go, respectfully. And that's what I did. And it changed my life. It opened up the space in my heart. My intuition came back. The light that I felt I always had came back. And it's like I started daring to live my life again.
Okay, so the program we're talking about is the Soberful Women program that Tamara and I teach. It's going to be open for enrollment from today. We've actually extended it to 5 months, so we've renamed it as Empowered Soberful Women, but it's the same thing. What were the big takeaways for you? What were the big things that kind of, because I felt like your mind was blown several times, but what was like the big things that really you got from it?
That's really true. My mind was blown so many times from the connection, which is something that did not exist for me because I trusted no one. And it was open, honest, non-judgmental communication. And even though like crosstalk, which is not allowed in some places, women would talk to each other, but it was always helpful and loving and kind. And it's like, I can so relate to what you're saying. Boundaries. I had a boundary to me was my house is here and your house is there. I had no idea that I could set boundaries with my family. I could set boundaries with myself. I could set them with my husband. And sometimes, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be so hard. I was so afraid to set boundaries. Sometimes saying nothing at all is the clearest boundary I can set with my family. If I don't volunteer to do whatever they're waiting for me to volunteer for, now I don't have any resentment and I'm free and I'm being myself. And it's like, that blew my mind that it was simple to set a boundary. And each time I did it, it built my self-esteem and my worthiness. And I said, I thought everybody out there was going to give me self-esteem and worthiness. I didn't realize this was an inside job. And that every time I claimed myself, I built myself up. And little miracles every day have just been happening ever since I took the program.
One of the things, Marianne, I discovered is, this is what I talk about when I talk about leading an expansive life. So Marianne likes words and she puts them together in very clever ways, and she sees things differently. And she's like, oh, I've kind of played around with like this. And I'm like, you should have a store. I would buy that t-shirt. And I'm like, so, and you don't have to talk about that, but that's one of the, like, that's one of your things. That's the growth that's calling you, right? Is to play around creatively, see what happens, right? But when we're drinking, we don't have the bandwidth.
I feel as though all of my life I have been called, but I've always been in fear. I think with the guilt and shame, and here's a fun with words, inferior. You have to say fear to say inferior. That was me. I lived as an inferior human being because that's what I was taught. Those were the limiting beliefs I was taught as a child. I had no idea that I could question that inner critic that was in my head, that I had the choice to listen to my intuition or listen to that inner critic. All I could hear was the critic. And it's like, each time I challenge that, sometimes I actually grin and I smile and I'm like, that's bullshit. Sorry. Keep programming.
That's okay.
That is not true. That is absolutely not true. And I have proof because yesterday this happened or today this happened. And you're right. I have over the years, I have all this stuff on my computer, things that I've started doing and stopped, or started drinking again, so I stopped, or didn't have faith in myself, so I stopped. And I said, you know what? It's time. And it took me 58 years. So it's never too late to go for your dream. And that's what I'm doing.
And the most important thing is what we teach is very skills based. It's not that we spend this time together and then off you go and you don't do anything else. It's about working the boundaries, working on the limiting beliefs, the resentments, all of that kind of stuff. Are you still doing all of that?
I still am. I still am. And literally, when I first started this 4-month program, there were 2 family members that I don't hate anyone. It's not in my soul. It's not part of who I am. I can say despised, would never forgive. There were 2 very close family members that hurt me terribly as a child. And I said, you know, I got to give it to a higher power or grace or the light, but I just can't do it. And I literally have written letters to both of them, because now, rather than seeing through the lens of resentment, I see through the lens of compassion. They could not give me what they did not have. They lived really hard lives. There were generation after generation of abuse and neglect, and they were only doing what they knew. But I stopped that cycle. And this program is part of the reason I learned how to stop that cycle. My daughter has seen it. I just celebrated a sober anniversary and my birthday, and my daughter was there to give me the chip.
Wow.
I was able to be, she's 30. I was able to be honest with her that I had to hit the reset button when we moved up here and I fell off the cliff because of the person who lives here. And I said, I'm going to take a risk that you're going to be ashamed of me and disappointed, but I'm going to be honest. And now I live an honest and open life. And before my head hits the pillow, it's like, is there anything I did today that I need to clean up that doesn't feel right? And I learned that in 4 months. And it really is, this is not a paid infomercial. My life is changing every day in beautiful ways. I went through a surgery. I think I got 20 cards waiting for me in the mailbox when I got home because of these honest, beautiful, truthful connections that I've made. So it really does, it's hard work. We have to be honest to heal.
It's effort.
And yes, it takes effort, but it's in here. It's not out there. It's in here. I've tried everything out there. It's in here.
So what we do, Tamara and I, is we return people to themselves. And I don't know, Marianne still, you know, I think we figured out is she's a storyteller. Like that's her role that she hasn't been stepping into. And she's playing around with that. I can't do that. That's not my thing. But I return people to themselves so they can then go out and be who they're meant to be. So Marianne can be the fullest version of Marianne, not the 50% version that was showing up in life. Marianne, thank you so much. You have just been so wonderful to work with and be with. And I know you're going to be around our tribe for a while, forever.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. I'm very grateful that I got to share this time with everyone. And thank you for your lovely comments.
Thank you, Marianne. So I'm going to tell you quickly about the program that Marianne just did. We actually just added an extra month because we wanted to add an extra module. The Empowered Soberful Women program. It's open for enrollment now. It is 5 months. So we start officially on June 24th and we run for 5 months. So it's all the way really through to the end of the year. We have 9 different modules that we're covering. We are doing a deep dive on boundaries. We are doing a module on creating balance and meeting your needs. We are doing a module on dealing with fear and resistance, building self-esteem, relationships, which is a big one, shifting resentments. These, again, key skills that we will be teaching you, very specific methods. We also are doing a module on women's hormones and their relationship with food, because we have found in our work, that's a big thing for women. So we have tomorrow on the free training, Mimi and Tiffany, who are both registered nurses, are going to be doing some part of the training. They teach in this program, and they teach a module about dealing with your hormones and all of those changes that are going on, and your relationship with food. And we also are doing a module on empowering habits. So I teach in this program, Tamara teaches in this program, Tiffany, Yolanda, and Mimi all teach in this program, and we are all either qualified as nurses or addiction specialists or whatever. So, and we've been doing this work for some time. So here's what I know about my audience. I am you and you are me. There's nothing special and different about me and Tamara. There's nothing special and different about me, Tamara, Marianne. All that's different about us is that we have done the work on ourselves. So in order to create the actual life we want, we have to make a commitment and we have to invest in ourselves. We've already been doing this. We've been spending money on alcohol, on food, on buying things that we don't need, on trying to fix ourselves. What we do is we try and do external fixes for an internal problems. So this is this program is it's 5 months. It is an investment to work with us. It's a really comprehensive program that we've done many times that we know works because it has the real key pillars to sobriety and becoming an empowered soberful woman. It's not a fluffy thing. It is deeper inner work. And that's the kind of people that are attracted to me and Tamara. We kind of radiate that, I think, pretty clearly, that we do the deeper emotional work. That's what we're qualified and experienced in. It's transformational work. It is the necessary internal work all human beings have to do, but most people don't listen to the call. And we do, it's very skills based. So we will give you very clear tools and skills to manage your mindset and your emotions so you can become and feel empowered. It's also not hard. It will take some effort, but it's manageable, that it will fit into your life. We start on the 24th of June and we run for 5 months. The calls are every Thursday. That's correct, isn't it, Tamara? It's right. Every Thursday. Yeah, we have a call every Thursday. You'll get a video of each module of what we're learning. You'll go and practice this new skills, the stuff that we're teaching you. And in the coaching calls, we will coach you and help you develop and understand what it is, and refine these skills. Because it's like riding a bike. It's not always, it's not always going to be. It takes a little bit of practice, and that's where you need us.
Yes.
So. Not everybody here is ready to do this. This may not be your time, but if it is your time, then we want to invite you to enroll. How do you tell if you're ready? Then you will feel very uncomfortable. You will be hearing the call to growth, and the voice of the ego will be kicking in and saying, this is not for you, it's not the right time. If you feel that way, then please book an assessment call and we can talk through what your needs are. So there's lots of different ways to join. You can, there's a pay in full option. If you pay in full, there's some bonuses. You can get some digital content. There's also some bonus calls at the end of the program that take place in December to get through the holidays. And there's an early bird sign up. So it doesn't matter if you paid it by installments or if you want to pay in full. You can, we have an early bird session on the 17th, which is a fun standalone session where we do a whole exercise on visioning and values. If you want to do the monthly option, the monthly payments, this is in US dollars, are $899 for 6 months, or you can pay in full. It's slightly less and you can get all of the bonuses. I am going to put the link in, Leni will put the link in the chat, and you'll also get it on the emails as well to sign up for the program. There's lots and lots of information there. And if you're kind of like on the fence of like, I really want to do this, but I don't know. You can also book a call with either me or Tamara, and we will talk you through everything and see if it's the right fit for you. So there's also that option. If you wanted to book a call, the calls to book a call with me and Tamara is just $97. And if you decide you want to join the program, we take that off the total price anyway. And we will talk you through everything in more detail. If you know you are in, go ahead and sign up. We always fill up. It always fills up. It's always fully booked. So you have a few days. You don't have to worry about it right now, but it will fill up. The monthly payments are $899 for 6 months. All of the information is on the sheet there. What also is included, you also get 5 months free membership to Soberful Life, which is our subscription group. So you also get all of that support and content, because we also create a private room just for people in this program. And that's where we post the homework, we can interact, you can ask questions. So you also have that way to get hold of any of the coaches as well. It's a really solid container. We put this together because we wanted to cover some of the deeper work that gets done in rehabs. But most women don't get a chance to go to rehab for 30 days. Most women can't leave their life or their kids or the people they're caring for. And most women don't have $20,000, $30,000 to spend on that. So we wanted to create something that was much more affordable, that was much longer, that really kind of did this deeper work, but in a way that fit with people's lives. So this program is, if you pay in full, it's $4,997. It's only $5,000, which is considerably less than going away to a rehab to do this deeper work. The homework part of this is, it's very actionable homework. So it's not going and you have to write things and do it by a certain date. It's just kind of like how Marianne was describing. You're going to go and practice having boundaries in your daily life. And you're going to come to the coaching call and say, this happened, or I felt like this, or I wasn't sure about that. And we will help you on the calls to how to deal with the feelings that come up, how to say things, all of that, so you can get better and better and better at using the skills. So we do a lot of stuff that's very, very skill based. The calls are every Thursday. They are 8 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. New York time. I believe that's correct. 12 p.m. lunchtime Pacific time. So all of the calls will be recorded. So if you happen to miss one, which everyone does over 5 months, you're going to miss one, you can catch up with the recording and what was taught and done in that class. So we'll tell you more about the program as we go through the next few days. If you want to join, if you want to check out all the information, you can look at the link there. You can, on Wednesday, we're going to have a Q&A session. And we're also going to have someone else come along and talk about their experience in the program, Diane, who's super awesome. Not only is she super awesome, she lives in like the far-flung reaches of Australia and literally gets up in the middle of the night to do this stuff. So you're going to meet her. She's great. It's really, it's our flagship program. We're very proud of it. If this is the right time for you, jump in. If it's not the right time for you, that's fine too. You still have to do the work. Just make sure you go somewhere and do the work. Tamara is going to be back tomorrow with Tiffany and Mimi, hormones and food and how that affects women, particularly in sobriety. Okay, everybody, take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.